I came from a family of 7 kids, so it's not like there was an organized class for every subject that I had. My mom wasn't, teaching me history page by page, right? It was like, sit down with this book, read this chapter, and I'll test you at the end of it. It was a school of hard knocks within my own home. And the ability to learn subject matter, even complex subject matter by myself, or at least taking the first few steps and trying to figure things out, has been instrumental in believing I can learn and do anything. And today I'm a technology company founder, and I don't know how to code. So, it should tell you a lot about what you think you can achieve just because you can learn things on your own.
Welcome to Homeschool Talks, a podcast by HSLDA. This is a show about all things homeschooling, from practical tips to inspiring stories and everything in between. This episode of Homeschool Talks features a conversation originally hosted live on our Facebook page. So if you like what you hear, be sure to follow us there for more content like this. We're so glad you've joined us today, and we hope you enjoy the program.
Hey everybody, my name is Jeremiah Lorrig, and welcome to our conversation with Russell York. And we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship and what it means to be a homeschool grad in this world. Russell is a co-founder and CEO of COSMO Technologies, who launched in 2020 to provide family-centric technology solutions. Welcome, Russell. How are you doing today?
I appreciate you having me. It's exciting to be here, and we're doing well.
Great. We're going to be talking to Russell about kind of what it means to be an entrepreneur, how homeschooling impacted him and all that. And Russell, I'm really excited to talk about what you're doing with COSMO to provide safe, smart technology opportunities for kids and in an environment where their parents can really trust it. But before that, would you kind of introduce yourself to the audience and give us an idea of where you come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, lifetime homeschooler here. I remember, it would have been the late 90s when my family started homeschooling. I would have been in kindergarten at the time. And in fact, I remember some of my earliest recollections of HSLDA were, doing little fundraisers, pizza fundraisers at our school, get together picnics with other homeschoolers and things. And so it's kind of surreal for me to come full circle and be talking to you guys on a platform that probably didn't exist in the late 90s, the internet here, doing a live stream. But yeah, I'm one of a family of 7. I was the second oldest, graduated from Patrick Henry College in 2012. I've been an entrepreneur. I've worked in military defense. I've worked in a couple of different sectors like that, and most recently have started COSMO Technologies, which you just mentioned, and then we're wading into the family space, trying to make the world a safer place for families and kids.
It's incredible how the world has changed since the time that you were being homeschooled and first hearing about HSLDA. As you've been watching the environment change, what was homeschooling like when you were there versus what it's like now?
I was wondering if we would talk about what homeschooling used to be like, and I was racking my brain for the early day stories. And I remember it used to be really countercultural to be a homeschooler back in the 90s, and I'm sure before that even more so. I remember not being allowed to go outside during school hours because we were afraid of truancy officers and sort of getting caught by the public school police, if you will. That was a much, I guess, bigger concern back then. That faded away in the 2000s, I think probably in large part due to the work of HSLDA. And by the time I graduated high school, the internet was everywhere. I was doing schoolwork on a computer, and I was a big part of homeschool speech and debate. And so lots of just, internet research and really education changed from the time that I started until I graduated, from a pretty disconnected world in the 1990s to a fully connected world in the 2000s. And homeschooling changed along with it. The community got bigger. The connections were made, more nationally. The number of, I think, national and statewide organizations that bring people together become much more established. There's more resources today. My youngest sister actually just graduated, and she was homeschooled as well. And so I've really seen 20 to 25 years of development in this community, and it's been remarkable to see the transition.
Yeah, and what comes to mind is realizing when you were in high school and we're talking about speech and debate and all that kind of stuff, the primary way to stay in touch with people was actually physically talking to them or calling them on a phone. But now the world is full of connection in ways that nobody would have dreamed of in the 90s. And so, with that in mind, you're engaging in entrepreneurship. What kind of thrust you that direction?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because it's such a holistic thing, right? I mean, you make a lot of choices in life, and the choice to become an entrepreneur or to start something is different for different people. For me, I've always worked in careers where I felt like there was meaning or some kind of purpose. I think I might have adopted a countercultural streak from homeschooling, but I've always wanted to make a difference. And so I haven't started a lot of companies, and this company got off the ground and got started because I just saw something I couldn't look away from, and that was, where's the world of technology for families? Everybody's connected except for kids. Kids are not being connected to the world in the right way. And as I'm looking at parenthood myself, getting a little older, a little bit more mature, and seeing the world through a different set of eyes, I'm afraid for what the technology world would be like for my kids. And I can understand the massive cohort of parents, the growing numbers of parents, and I think many of them are in the homeschool community, that are concerned about technology leaving families and kids behind, and not addressing the very real world concerns that they have. So that was a mission that I felt was worth leaning into, and that's why we started COSMO.
That's great. So COSMO is growing out of kind of that countercultural concern with a emphasis on safety and caring for young people and giving them a healthy environment to thrive in. But so that's where you are now. Was this your first entrepreneurial enterprise, or how did you get started in this idea of building something, from nothing?
Well, I mean, I could tell the story that I'm sure we all have, which is, washing cars in my neighborhood as a kid, or little odd jobs like that. My mom, who actually organized and ran the homeschool community in San Diego for a number of years, she was the principal of our homeschooling co-op. Always had that streak as well. Has been a self-starter, someone who wasn't afraid to get out there and share big ideas. So a lot of my inspiration would come from my mom, for sure. And she's been a supporter of this little venture the whole way. Of course, excited to see this happening. But for me and starting COSMO, it came down to the idea that there's a better way to do things. I got frustrated working for a lot of companies that I felt weren't ambitious or mission focused. There's a lot of jobs you can have where you can make good money or you can do these things, but the ability to make a difference is something that doesn't come with many jobs. And so, I've looked at a lot of my fellow graduates from Patrick Henry, and I've seen what they've done to go out there and change the world. And I just decided, it's my turn to give it a shot. So here we are, taking a risk and trying to make a difference.
That's great. So high school and now, in college, were you able to pursue any sort of entrepreneurship, or what did that look like? Was that just a prepping ground, or how did you grow there?
Actually, yes. In Patrick, when I was in Patrick Henry, I was a government major and I was looking for internship credits, but I still had this entrepreneurship streak. So I went home for Christmas one year. And I actually went out and I found 2 or 3 guys who were running for different political offices in my hometown in San Diego. And I said, hey, let me consult for you. I'll do it basically for free, and I'll get internship credit from my college for it. And so I got them all to agree to hire me as kind of a political consultant, if you will. And then I came back, and I don't know if Dr. Hake still works at PHC, but I convinced him to give me internship credit for it. And so going to a small school that was flexible really helped for that. And I continued working on my entrepreneurship chops while I was a student.
Wow. So thinking of the flexibility that comes from a small school, it's the smallest school is a homeschool. And you also talked about your mom kind of creating an environment where you could thrive in your imagination and your ability to dream of things. Did homeschooling help set you up for an entrepreneurial lifestyle?
I would say yes. I would say it was essential for me. I was never a good student. I'm not a good test taker. That's true to this day. And what homeschooling did for me was it really pushed me to learn how to teach myself. And I know every family is different. I came from a family of 7 kids, so it's not like there was an organized class for every subject that I had. My mom wasn't, teaching me history page by page, right? It was like, sit down with this book, read this chapter, and I'll test you at the end of it. It was a school of hard knocks within my own home. And the ability to learn subject matter, even complex subject matter, by myself, or at least taking the first few steps and trying to figure things out, has been instrumental in believing I can learn and do anything. And today I'm a technology company founder, and I don't know how to code. So it should tell you a lot about what you think you can achieve, just because you can learn things on your own.
I love how you put that, because it sounds like problem solving, it turns out to be one of the most important skills that you learned. And for some of us who maybe testing wasn't our strength, that there's still tremendous opportunity in this world. God builds us with this ability to make a huge difference. And I love seeing people stepping out and walking those paths. What for you, what was kind of some of those challenges that were maybe obstacles or barriers to you making the connections to get to where you are today?
Coming from this background, everybody, there's a joke, or there used to be a joke, that homeschool kids are struggle socially, and that was never the case for me. And I don't know if there were any more socially awkward kids in my community than in any other, but it was the joke, right? And I wear that on my sleeve to this day. I love that joke, and I tell people, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just a little social. I was homeschooled, making connection in the adult world was something that I had to tell myself I could do. I didn't graduate from an Ivy League school where I was gifted, thousands and thousands of people in my network or anything like that. And so it's been the process of going out and building my own network. And so I had my serious doubts and reservations about whether or not I could do that. And of course, you work hard at anything, you focus at anything, you can teach yourself anything, you can teach yourself how to network too. And I'll throw this out here now. My co-founder and a number of the people who work in our company are people I went to school with. They're all homeschoolers. In fact, we have kind of a homeschool team. It's not an official slogan, but the homeschool mafia, if you will. We ride together, and there are no better people to find to work with you anywhere, honestly. And so we continue to recruit from the circles we have and the people we know.
Well, and it makes sense that people who center so much of their life around family would care to start a company, an organization, a business that is designed around supporting families and creating that healthy workspace. So now that we've kind of gotten to know you, can you tell us a little bit about COSMO? You started it in 2020 when so many people were struggling with the world being a really crazy place. That's when you laid the foundations for this and kicked it off. So tell us about COSMO. Tell us that kind of the origin story there.
Yeah, no, I read in an entrepreneur's self-help book, start a company during a pandemic. It's a great idea. What could go wrong? It's funny. I had started sampling some of the products out there, different kids' smartwatches I was testing out back in late 2019, so pre-pandemic, right? And then had officially decided, this is it. I'm going to launch this company in February. And as everyone or anyone who knows recent history will recall, March was when everything kind of fell apart. And that was a blow to your confidence, that you've taken this big leap and you've tried to do this thing, and then the entire global economy shuts down. You can't even get on a plane. So certainly an auspicious start. And I would say that initial difficulty was a really good way to just catch up to speed with, starting a company is hard, and it's not a straight path to success. And there's going to be a lot of things that just don't break your way. So that was where COSMO was born. And we actually had a great 2020. We figured a lot of things out. We began developing the product. Obviously, we've custom built so much of this solution to achieve what we want to in terms of protecting kids' privacy and making sure that parents have the administrative control, the de facto control of what their kids see and experience. That was all stuff we had to build, and that took time. And so, honestly, being locked in a room was not the worst place to get that kind of work done. But we came out of 2020 very strong, and it's been a great year for us this year in 2021. So we still feel like kind of a young / teenage startup, and we're just finding our sea legs. It's been an exciting couple of years.
It sounds really dynamic. Can you describe the product? Like we've been kind of dancing around it from the get-go, but for the parents who are watching and their curiosity is piqued because we've talked about creating a safe, flourishing environment for use of smart technology. But what is the actual product and how can it be plugged into a family?
Well, the product is, as we've talked about, addressing the need to connect with younger kids. And what we've keyed into is that for many parents, the conversation about getting a phone is starting younger and younger. In fact, I think the national statistic is that 50% of kids will have a phone of their own by age 11. 25% will have a phone by age 8. And we've seen kids as young as 4 and 5 that have some kind of a connected device. What we're stepping into is a space. So we design, make, and manufacture a kids 4G smartwatch. So it would look and function similarly to how maybe an Apple Watch would, or something similar. It has a touch screen. But what's actually on it, the software that's on it, is incredibly focused on just essential things. So a kid can message, text message, call, take and send photos, but they can only do it to approved contacts. And those are managed by the parent on the parent's phone, right? So if you have a smartphone, you would download our app, COSMO Mission Control. And from that, you can determine what preset text messages your child has access to. You can track them using GPS. We have one of the most accurate GPS abilities of any device on the market. And you get this sort of home dashboard for what your child is up to. And the stories we get are incredible. You might not think that giving a 5-year-old a phone number makes any sense, but when that 5-year-old intervenes in a medical emergency to call someone who can help, or fixes an overflowing toilet because dad was able to talk them through it, or just sends you a photo from their day at school. I mean, those kinds of things are what this is all about. And if people weren't thinking about devices for young kids, the solution has always been to take an adult piece of technology and give it to a kid and maybe try and lock down some of the settings so they can't do anything that would be inappropriate or harmful. But what if you actually made a device for kids? What would that device look like? And that's the adventure that we're on. So we're trying to say, what should that device look like? And what do parents want it to do? And so that's our first device, is a 4G connected kid smartwatch.
So basically, it sounds like what it is it's smart communications technology where kids can call their parents, call other approved contacts, be in touch with them that way. And so there's those things. But isn't there also a safety element where you can know where your kids are as needed?
Absolutely. So we have a live tracking feature, right? And this will give you up to the second updates about where they are. You can watch them walk to school or walk to grandma's house or ride their bike around the neighborhood. So the GPS is actually very flexible. You can set geofences is what they're called. Draw a circle around your house or around their school or around anywhere that you want to make sure that they're staying. And if they leave that location, you'll get an immediate alert saying, your child has left the home, or your child has left the backyard, or wherever that is. So the GPS piece of it is a big reason, especially for younger kids, and why parents look for this product.
So I was talking to a friend of mine this morning who has your watches, and he said that basically, to sum up our conversation, he basically said that the kids love it because they can be in touch. They can be in touch with their parents, their grandparents, and other approved contacts. And so that's kind of the cool thing for the kid to have, is that connection. But from the parent's side, he really appreciated the ability to set those fences. You called them geofences, where he could know, okay, the kids are at home. And if the kids leave the home, whether they're going out on a bike or, whatever, he gets an alert and says, hey, they're heading out, and then he knows when they've left, what they're doing, and can keep an eye on them depending on the circumstances pretty effectively there. So does that pretty much sum up the product decently well?
That would definitely summarize, I think, a primary use case for this product, right? I mean, I can imagine back in the 90s when we were worried about truancy officers, that my mother would have felt much more comfortable with us around the neighborhood if we could just call home if there was an issue, or that she could see exactly where we were, right, if we didn't come home at the right time, right? So it really is establishing that sort of like out of the house trust and confidence. It's interesting, not to get too far afield here, but the statistics are that in the last 30 years, crime has dropped substantially. That's an actual data fact. Crime, per 100,000 people, those kinds of statistics. But we feel less safe. I think everybody generally feels less safe. You feel less confident letting your kid run around the neighborhood than you might have used to. And so the perception and reality problem there is something we want to address head on. We want to make neighborhoods safe for families again. Take back the neighborhood, right? And I think a key part of that today, when connection for so many people does mean safety and security, is to connect the youngest, most vulnerable members of the family unit. There's almost no reason that they shouldn't have a phone number. The only reason that they don't have a phone number is because, at least until products like this have come along, that meant that they had open access to the internet and social media and all those other things that you just simply don't want, a 5 to 10 or 12-year-old to have any access to, really, or parent to parent, be able to make that decision on your own. So yeah, that's what this is, right? It's giving parents that kind of control over their own lives again.
This is fascinating to me. The question for you: what are some of the main features that parents find to be most helpful to them? Like, what's the feedback you're getting for this product?
It's really a product with a million functions. I'm aware that there are as many different kinds of families and therefore use cases as there are families. There's almost no two families that are exactly the same. And so, we hear all kinds of things. It's a way to organize picking kids up from soccer practice. It's a way for parents to let kids talk to grandma who doesn't get to visit except for during the holidays, or during COVID, really not at all. It's a way to give kids a sense of feeling a little bit more independent, a little bit more like an adult. Kids are growing up fast right now. And so, it's a way to put off having the conversation about the phone. It really depends on the parent. And I imagine everyone who's going to listen to this might already be thinking about in the back of their heads, oh, well, maybe none of the things he said, but I have, 4 or 5 other things I could do with that. And so that's a big part of it. There's one other, Jeremiah, and this might be an interesting thing for both you and your listeners, as I know it's increasingly an issue that all Americans are grappling with. And that is that, algorithms and what happens when you interface with a screen today are taking advantage of kids. And so really, drawing a circle around not just your child, but around your home and saying, hey, within this space, we're going to say big tech companies like Facebook and Google and Apple and Amazon, they don't have de facto access to my kids, right? I'm not going to give them a smartphone, put an app on it that kind of shuts down the features and controls things. That's not enough. Fundamentally, these phones, the operating systems, are run by big tech companies that have many nefarious ways of identifying new users and gradually building behavioral profiles that will be used to influence, monetize, and control them down the road. And so that's really the long-term view of COSMO, is that we want to create a deplatformed way for families to connect, that your child really shouldn't be exposed to algorithms and big tech companies until such time as you've had the time to have big conversations with your kids.
Wow, it sounds like you're really putting the parent in the driver's seat and giving them the ability to open doors and decide when to open what doors. So this is I feel like this has a lot of potential, not just in the homeschool world, but for all parents to kind of take control of the access that their kids have. So we're talking about you as an entrepreneur, and you had this big idea, this big mission, these things that you wanted to accomplish. But what has the last year looked like for you? What were some of the successes and challenges that you've kind of run into over the course of the last year and a half since you launched this exciting program?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, managing a global supply chain has been a new and complicated project. Learning as much as is relevant about technical engineering, getting into sort of the strategy of how we want to position the product that such as we're building it, and highlights, getting mentioned in the New York Times or the Washington Post or things like that, and seeing that what we're doing is naturally gravitating to a conversation that people are having. I would say maybe the coolest thing though has been building a team. And like I mentioned, I hired a couple of Patrick Henry classmates of mine, Michelle Wright and Ryan Gillis, to take on key roles in the company. Michelle is my co-founder and COO. And then to see, I think we're a team of about 10 now, and then a global team of, engineers and freelancers and operations people. And every now and then you get everybody on one Zoom call and you see all those faces and you sort of have to pinch yourself and think, wow, this just didn't exist 18 months ago. And so that's been really cool, to build an organization and have everybody so like-minded and focused on what we're trying to accomplish.
Wow. So as you're building this, and you talked about working with a team and everything, what are some of your favorite things that you've learned or gotten to experience in this process? Is it the teamwork? Is that really the core that's the key to success, or what else has been happening?
Teamwork is different in every organization, right? And I've never been a CEO before. This is a new one for me. And I think, I don't know how everyone starts a company, but I started this thing thinking, I've got this. I have such a cool idea. And that gets knocked down a peg or two really fast. And you start to look at your team and think, these are really smart people. I don't know why they think I know what I'm doing. And so really seeing different people on the team step up and shine and bring their own, background, experience, and talent to the equation, trust other people's creativity. It's been a really rewarding experience to see that. And I know we're just getting started. And so where this goes from here is got to be an adventure to watch. And so, I would say just playing with a new team of people and seeing everybody start to mesh together has been really, really cool.
Russell, as you are building this, I get the feeling that there's got to be basically a driving mission that's really propelling this whole thing forward. Can you talk about the overall vision and kind of what is the propeller that's pushing you?
I would describe it just like this: power to the parents. Power to the parents. Culture has passed from generation to generation for thousands of years, parent to child. That is literally how society evolves, grows, matures, and most importantly, remains constant, remains stable and strong. And I think if you look at the last 20 years, you can point to a lot of things that have seemed to stretch our society. And I'm not just talking about political polarization. I'm talking about a lot of really terrible things that we just never thought we would see in the news. And while you can't point at one video game or one piece of content and say, if we just regulated that, right? The fundamental underlying problem, at least that I believe is the problem, and that COSMO is devoting itself to fixing, is the problem of parents being removed from parenting. That by virtue of technology creeping its way into homes, on screens, and via powerful algorithms that we don't fully even understand ourselves, that the voice the parents have in their own kids' lives has been diminished. And many times kids are hearing messages and being exposed to people, ideas, and things without parental sort of filtering. And so we want to create a new technology ecosystem, particularly for families with young kids, where parents are de facto in control of their own home, right? Where what their kids see and exposed to is filtered through mom and dad first. And so power to the parents. That's COSMO's mission. Let's reinvent technology for the family.
Awesome. Well, we have a couple audience questions, and one of the first ones is you've mentioned the watch. Do you currently have any other products, or are you looking to go into smartphones and tablets and anything like that? Where are you right now, and where are you looking to go?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a phone that should be released in the next 5 or 6 months. We're targeting spring of 2022. We have a beta phone that's functioning great today, but we're going to put it through really rigorous testing, and there's all kinds of certifications we have to go and get done. But expect a phone coming in 2022, middle of the year, and it will have all of the same features as the smartwatch. Plus, it will have, whether it's ready at launch or not, we'll see, but immediately following, our own family app store. And so it's an app store that will have access to just about every app in the world, but parents get to decide what gets downloaded. They get to monitor and track time usage, and they can delete, removes, or otherwise manage those applications. And again, power to the parents. We don't want to tell parents no screen time, phones are bad, whatever. If you want your kid to have access to, kids Messenger, kids YouTube, or Facebook, or whatever your thing is, that's up to you. You're in charge. We just want to give you control. And so the phone will come with a more robust user experience for both parents and kids, and it will be anchored around that family app store.
Parent in the driver's seat. That sounds like the homeschooler way. I love how yeah.
Do I sound like a homeschooler?
Yeah, it sounds like you have experienced the benefits of seeing a parent who can customize the experience and education for their kids to help them succeed best, which is I think really cool about this whole process. Another question,
life, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. There's another question. You mentioned supply line issues. What does your manufacturing process look like, and how did you kind of manage this new thing, building from non-existent company to a company that has physical product that's being distributed right now?
Well, from where we started, where we are today, a lot has happened. But where we started was simply looking on Alibaba, which is kind of an Amazon based in China, and looking for devices that fit the basic needs we were looking for. Once we found a supplier that was making something that looked good, we stepped in, and we've worked with them for the last 2 years to update, improve the product. We've completely, and this is important, we've completely overhauled the software on that device, so it's owned by us. Our servers are in the US. These are double encrypted, completely secure devices. We use our China manufacturing partner to assemble some hardware. But importantly for anyone who's looking at this product for their family, this is a US and secure device. But that's where we started. Was like, let's go and find the physical hardware. And so we found that in China. And then we've done software development using an entire team, half of them based out of Slovenia, the other half in Canada. And we've got product managers here in the US. So it's a global company, and it's been a lot of fun to try and piece all of that together.
Wow. And so another question, in terms of Wi-Fi and cell coverage and all that kind of stuff, does it have to be connected to cell towers basically, or does Wi-Fi work with this? Like, some of the parents in the audience are trying to get a picture of how this would practically work in their context.
It is Wi-Fi enabled, but to get the full use of the device, you definitely need the 4G component of it, right? 4G is going to enable the calling function, especially. So with Wi-Fi, you can get some things like messaging, but you won't be able to get phone calling. And I would need to check on GPS. I believe with to get GPS functionality, you might need that cell tower connectivity as well.
So as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about your path. You're the entrepreneur, the homeschooler who grows up and decides has this vision, has this mission that they want to accomplish. And what would you say to kids in the audience, people who are wanting to consider this kind of adventure for themselves, finding a company, building something? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I would say that there's no time like the present to get started now. It wasn't a joke to talk about going and washing cars in my neighborhood as a kid. The principle I live by running this company is to fail small and fail quickly. And I hadn't previously understood what that meant. I've heard other entrepreneurs talk about it. What they mean is not to fail, right? For your company to fall apart. What they mean is to make small mistakes. Because mistakes are the most informative thing. It's the kind of truth and power that lends to actual knowledge and expertise. And so start a small business or try and consult for somebody, or really do anything. Sell me this pencil is not a bad exercise sometimes. And so if you ever think you want to run a company, give it a shot. And really there's no age minimum to get started on that.
I was reading G.K. Chesterton, and I can't remember if this is a quote from him or kind of my takeaway from what I was reading, but it was anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first, because we start and then we grow, we get better, we learn from those mistakes. And it sounds like that's kind of your advice there. Is that a fair interpretation?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have to borrow that. G.K. Chesterton. That's a great quote. And absolutely, that's true. Excellence comes with time. Nobody starts excellently, right? And I think homeschoolers, maybe in particular, but anyone who really is focused on education as a key part of development and growth, right? And if you're homeschooling in your family, it's because you've made a decision that says, well, we don't want to educate over here or here or here. We're going to try this avenue, right? And it comes down bottom line because you prioritize how important it is to learn and to grow, with a certain rigor or in a certain direction. And when it comes to being an entrepreneur or doing anything in business, it's picking a direction, it's sticking to it, and understanding you'll get better with time. That's absolutely part of the process.
I love that advice to future entrepreneurs. Now, what about those future entrepreneurs' parents? We have a lot of parents in the audience who are raising kids who are excited about some of these ideas. What advice would you give to parents to help foster and grow that appetite in them?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but as I mentioned earlier, I was never the smartest kid, not particularly book smart. I learned through a lot of extracurricular things. I did speech and debate. I participated in the Civil Air Patrol, which is kind of like a Boy Scouts program. And in high school was just constantly involved in all kinds of things, angel tree programs during the holidays, and anywhere where I could have a chance to lead something or be responsible for something. I thrived in non-structured work. And my parents, credit to them, quickly picked up on the fact that a B was fine for me in terms of a grade, as long as I was really pushing and pursuing and passionately going after things that were overall assisting in my development. And so, I don't know if there's a straight path from being an extracurricular high school student to an entrepreneur, but that's how it worked for me.
Yeah, to salt my story in a little bit here. I grew up in a homeschool family and was diagnosed very young with extreme dyslexia. And what my parents learned to do was to lean into my strengths and let me thrive in that way. Because once again, with the dyslexia, I'm never going to be considered book smart. I'm never going to be reading at the level of my peers. I'm not going to be writing at the level of my peers. But what they did is they created environments that I could thrive in, and then I was able to express that creativity and growth in those areas, even if it wasn't the standard way to be or to be educated, let alone homeschooled.
That's incredible. I never would have known. I've known you since college, and I never would have picked up on your superpower. That's a big credit to your parents. Congratulations to them. And Jeremiah, maybe if I can break in and ask you a question. I mean, you probably see a lot of people from the homeschool community, and we're talking today about a little homeschool company startup kind of a thing. But when you talk to people that have really succeeded and come out of homeschooling, and I think you and I both went to a school, Patrick Henry, that was full of some of the best and brightest. Is there a common thread that you tie back to homeschooling? Do you see a lot of people going on and starting companies, or is it more? I don't know. Do you see a lot of entrepreneurship, or is that something that?
Yeah, what I love about homeschooling is that it removes some of the fences that hold people back, and when they are able to push some boundaries and to try new things, opportunity explodes. And so, whether or not people are entrepreneurial in the same way that you are, in terms of starting a global enterprise that's putting devices in homes and families all across our country, at the very least, what I see is people being entrepreneurial in their ideas. or in their family environment. They're finding ways to push back some of those barriers that hold people back, to create healthy environments where their kids, their families, their communities can all thrive better because they are willing to test some new ideas and to try some new and exciting things.
And that has to contribute to the growth of homeschooling across the country, right? I mean, results speak for themselves. I imagine that's something every parent can lean into.
Yeah, the numbers of the homeschooling growth right now is pretty dynamic, and I think part of it is the entrepreneurship, and part of it is the ability to just spend time with the people you love the most. So as we're kind of coming to a close here, I'm thinking about those families and the environments and that you're creating, where parents are in the driver's seat and able to take control of some of these areas that big companies are kind of dominant in right now. What are your kind of concluding thoughts that you would like to share with our audience here today?
Don't sleep on technology. It has a potentially miracle or highly corrosive effect. Parents need to be keyed into this. You don't have to be a technical expert to manage this situation in your home anymore. There are family solutions, and I'm not even plugging my company. There are other companies I would point you at, for example, Circle or Life 360 or Gab or any number of these other companies that are doing really, really great work. And it's just that important. It's important for families to start to adopt non-mainstream technology from the biggest tech companies, and start to seek out solutions that are really more customized to their family and their needs. I grew up, like I had said, where I bridged from non-technology to technology, and nothing that my parents did wrong, but they just weren't aware of that transition. And I know how corrosive technology was for me in my developmental phase in high school and even in junior high. I don't want that for my kids. I'm sure parents today want to make sure that they're not accidentally, maybe giving a corrosive influence to their child by way of technology. So it's really an encouragement. It's an encouragement to go out there and find better solutions, and there are great options.
Thank you. It's been great to catch up with you here today, Russell. If you know anybody who would like to explore the ideas of entrepreneurship and starting a business, share this podcast, share this interview, so that they can think about these issues and kind of expand their understanding and experience. I am super excited to have opportunities to talk to dynamic homeschool alum who are really making a difference in the world, who are building something new and putting parents in the driver's seat. So Russell, thank you for your time. Thanks for all the effort you're putting into this and putting parents in a place where they can drive their families in a safe and wholesome way.
Jeremiah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking ahead and wondering how you can help your kids find their passions and prepare them for life's journey, HSLDA has created a lot of resources for you, including a whole series of articles called Helping My Teen Explore Career Options. We're going to put that link in the comments as well, and you can find that there. If you are not a member of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, we would love to have you join us, and we're going to put a link to joining us also below. And we want to thank you all for being here. Russell, thank you for being a part of this, and I hope you all have a great day.
Today's episode is made possible by HSLDA's Generation Joshua program. Do you have a student who wants to make a difference in our nation? Generation Joshua empowers teens to make the most of their citizenship through local clubs, immersive simulations, online courses, and real-life campaign experiences. For more information, visit generationjoshua.org. That's generationjoshua.org. Thanks for listening to this episode of Homeschool Talks. If you enjoyed this conversation, leave a review to let us know what you think. To hear more conversations like this one, be sure to subscribe to this podcast or head on over to hslda.org/podcast for more inspiring stories and awesome ideas about homeschooling. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed the program, and we'll see you next time.